Let's begin with the word of prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. We also just want to mention one other resource that's free, that it could be available for you if you're interested. We did a number of videos with Ascension Presents. So Ascension Press has this big YouTube channel, Ascension Presents, and we did a number of videos related to themes we're talking about today, some things we didn't talk about today as well, but you can just find those at Ascension Presents on YouTube, and you just search for Beth and Edwards 3, you can find those videos as well. So if you have a friend or family member that didn't get to come today, they really wanted them to be here, we have a talk that's available as a download. You can get it at the table, and it's a summary talk. It wouldn't cover everything in 3 hours, but it's a 1 hour talk, and there's a free download inside. It also comes with a CD for those folks that still have CD players, but you're buying a download. That's just, I think it's just $5. They have that there at the table as well. All right, so we want to talk about dealing with differences. And I like to begin thinking about a pilgrimage group that I led many years ago. So I get many people coming as married couples on my pilgrimage. They come for their 10th anniversary, their 20th, their 30th anniversary, or they just like gelato. It doesn't matter what year, they just want to come. So we do this great Rome pilgrimage, and many times we'll go see the Pope, and I have this whole strategy on how to get to the front row early, and you can come by and you get to shake hands with the Pope, and we've done it for over 20 years. We have a 100% track record of getting up to that front row. But what happens is you get there, and it's like finally 8:15 in the morning. You've been up since 5:30, and now you got to wait 2.5 hours for the Pope to come out. So we're sitting, and there was all these couples, young and old, that were talking. And there was this one young couple that was there, and I think they had maybe 3 kids at the time. They'd been married 6-7 years, and she was just saying about how surprising marriage was, like how hard it is. And she's like, this is so hard. No one ever told me how hard this is. I mean, we love each other and it's all great, but man, it's 2 different people coming together with 2 different perspectives on life. The way that we look at things is different. The way we approach money is different. The way we approach parenting is different. The way we have expectations about holidays is different. Everything's so different. and all the other couples who've been married for a decade or 2 or 3 are just laughing because they go, yep, that's what married life is really all about.
It's funny, I've heard someone define marriage, like, what is marriage? What do you mean by marriage? And somebody said, simply, marriage is never getting to do what you want. That's pretty accurate, You want to sleep? Sorry, the baby needs to get up. You want to go golf for 5 hours with your friends? Sorry, you've got yard work to do. We can go on and on, but when it comes to differences, we come from 2 unique backgrounds. So we celebrate, for instance, holidays differently. For your family, maybe you grew up opening gifts on Christmas Eve. Maybe your husband woke up Christmas Day and that's when the gifts were open. Or maybe you have a family that opens 1 gift for the 12 days of Christmas. Who knows? But you come from different backgrounds, and then everyone thinks what they're coming from is it. Of course, our family did this, so everybody's family did this. And you get married and you're like, wait, what? Why would you do that? That's weird. Like, no way, we're never doing that. But that's the beauty of the melding of the 2 different backgrounds. Visiting family, it could be like Thanksgiving is always when we always go, and we'll always be there for Thanksgiving, or maybe it's something else. Are we going to see them every weekend if they're in town? Are we going to go there for holidays? Are we not? It could be communication. I told you that once, so of course you should remember. Maybe not. There's different ways of parenting. Maybe someone was parented in a harsh way. Maybe someone was parented without many rules on the opposite spectrum. And then you come up expecting, well, that's just, of course, how we'll do it. Or without even consciously realizing it, you just continue to act in the way that your parents act without even recognizing it, without even realizing that there might be another opinion, another way of doing it, another way of approaching the same thing that's just as valid. Even simple things like the time you eat dinner can be something that can just blow your mind out of the water. For instance, we have some friends, a younger couple, and she grew up on a farm, And farm life is very structured. Everything has to be done at a precise time, which leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing, which leads into night and to the next day. And so her mom, every day, without fail, had dinner hot on the table at 5 p.m. And so my friend, the daughter who grew up in this family, internalized the fact that to be a good wife, to be a good mother, to have a good family life, is dinner hot on the table at 5 p.m. every day. Her husband came from a different background and didn't realize that this was his wife's impression of what it meant to be a good wife, have a good family. And so he would get off work at 5 and then kind of mosey his way home. And he would get home, and she at first was like, why are you coming home so late? Why can't we do dinner at 5 o'clock so I can be a good wife and we can be a good family? And it led to all this tension because she felt he was disrespecting her, and she felt he didn't honor, and she felt that he was not coming at the same thing the same way. And of course, he should know that good families have dinner warm on the table at 5 o'clock to eat. And so eventually there's a big blow up about it. And then eventually they came to see that what he was doing was causing his wife stress, but she also, more importantly, came to see that there are a million ways to be a good wife and a good family. And that dinner at 5 o'clock, while it was the line in the sand and very rigid and naturally so, growing up, that wasn't going to have to be the case for her family, for her marriage. And I love this story because who would have thought arguing about dinner time would be an issue? But I bet each of us have that little thing that is a source of tension that there's no way others will see it. Like, really? You argue about that? For real? But it is an issue because there's something deep within us that we are clinging to as this is the truth. And this is how it has to be. And if we just get this right, then I'll know I'm safe.
So we have in our marriages all these unspoken expectations. And it's important just to be able to get them out in the open, to talk about them, realize, oh, it doesn't have to be 5 o'clock. We could do 6. We could do 5:45. So we have all these things that are unspoken, but when they're unspoken, that's when it becomes a source of tension. We also come to our marriages with different temperaments, different personalities. And I have a friend, a couple, and she came from a loud, boisterous Irish family. I mean, they're just full of passion, emotion, loud volume in everything that they do. Oh, so good to see you! And oh, I'm so mad at you! And they'll be yelling at each other 1 minute, and then 5 minutes later hugging each other and so happy to be together. All the emotions are out on the table. And then the husband, he came from a very quiet, reserved German family. And nobody talked at the dinner table, no one shared emotions, no one ever dared to disagree with each other. At least publicly. Like if you disagreed with what someone said, you just said, oh. You never talked about differences, you never shared emotions. It was all very, nice and ordered in a box. So you can imagine this couple coming together in marriage. So in their first couple of years of marriage, there's things that are going wrong, and she's frustrated, so she just was like, ah! And he's like, I gotta hide. And then all the time anything went wrong, her volume would go up. She was very expressive, and he was just thinking, my wife is going crazy. She hates me. Oh my goodness, our marriage is falling apart. And she's over here wondering, how come he's not talking? Maybe I need to raise my volume even more and be more emotional to get his attention. And then that drove him to hide more, and he's not saying anything, and she's wondering, what is he thinking? How come he doesn't share what he's thinking? He doesn't tell me what's going on in his mind. And you just saw this became a source of tension. But over time, they began to realize, that, okay, she's very outward, with all of her emotions and all of her thoughts. And maybe she's thinking, okay, I need to tone it down a little bit because I don't want to wipe my husband out. At the same time, he also learned that if she does increase in emotion and in volume, that doesn't mean our marriage is falling apart. That doesn't mean she hates me. This is how she expresses frustration or concern and things that I need to not fall into panic mode. And I can't be in silent mode all the time, just in my own thoughts and in fetal position or whatever. I need to be able to share with her, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm processing what you're saying. And they're learning to come together. And what was beautiful about their story is that notice what they did. It wasn't as if she said, hey, look, I'm just Irish. This is my family life. You need to accept me. You need to change. She wasn't pointing the remote control at him. She realized, okay, I realize this is just my upbringing, yes, but my upbringing is wiping out my husband. I don't want to wipe out my husband. I want to change. I want to tone it down. I'm gonna try to, so she's working on herself. Same thing on his end. He's not saying, well, you just have to stop being loud. She was pointing the remote control at himself and being able to say, okay, maybe I just need to not overreact when she gets this way, and I need to share more what's going on inside my mind so that she's not worried about what I'm thinking all the time.
So men and women are different, simply put, radically different. I mean, even the way that we're wired, to the very cells of our being, we're so different. Even how we approach the world is so different. Men tend to be more sensual, more drawn in with their eyes, whereas women have a deeper, richer emotional life. Again, generalizations. This isn't always and everywhere across the board, every man, every woman. But women have this ability to connect, this ability to sense what's going on with the other and to desire to understand and to anticipate and take initiative in those relationships. And that this is a trap I found myself falling into, and I think many wives can relate, where because we are so easily see and understand things that would make us happy, or things that would be good for our marriage or our family life or our children or even other people, we don't understand why our husbands don't see that as well. Well, if he loves me, then he should just know that I want this, or he should just know that this is a problem, or he should just know that I'm not happy right now because I was not happy about this same thing last month. The idea that we want our men to read our minds, and it's just not fair. They're just not wired the same way that we are. We really wish they could, but they just can't. We can hint at it. We can say, oh, hey, why don't you maybe? And they just sometimes completely don't get it. Even around the house. I remember when we were first married, I'd be nursing our firstborn in a different room, and Ted would come and be like, oh, I cleaned the kitchen. I'm like, great, thank you. And I would go into the kitchen, and there'd still be crumbs on the floor. The counter would have like a spill of something. Something wouldn't be put away. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. How is this a kitchen? But I realized he can't see messes even the same way that I see them. He just can't. And so it was a great act of charity on my part. Instead of being like, dude, you call this clean? No. That's wrong, and that's wrong, and what about this? And being like, okay, thank you for cleaning, and that's great. Do you see the crumbs on the floor? And did you happen to notice this here? And now when you clean the kitchen, it's awesome. We actually have children who help clean the kitchen, so it's less of an issue.
I've gotten a lot of training.
But it was the first time, I think, early on that really profoundly clued me in. Sometimes even the very things that we see are different. They're the same things, but something that we see, oh, duh, you got to clean this up. He's like, oh, that's totally fine. No worries.
Yeah, so I think many times, again, so what Beth was getting at, that men and women are different. Women have this deeper, richer emotional life, able to read relationships, see things in a way that a man doesn't. Man has other gifting as well. But the key here is, I think many women think, man, I just want my husband to read my mind. But I like to say that you have to realize, we men, we don't have your feminine genius. We just don't. And we need you to help us. We sometimes need you to just spell it out for us. Like Beth had to show me, here's the crumbs, here you put this thing away over here. Sometimes it's not that we don't want to serve, it's not that we don't want to care for your heart. It's not that we don't want to love you and think about how to support you. No, we just don't know how all the time. And I know you wish that we would just figure it out, because wouldn't it just be beautiful if my husband just figured it all out, and he'd be a wonderful husband, and we could do that sometimes, but there's many things we just need you to say, I need you to do this. Please stop doing this. We need you to speak it.
Kindly, gently.
Yeah, kindly, gently. But when you just are hinting and hoping, that's where we want to serve, we maybe just don't know how. I think one of the ways that a story I like to tell, Beth doesn't like to hear it, but it's a sad story. But do you know that book, The Love Languages? Have you ever heard of the idea of the 5 love languages? Like every person has a way of, they like to receive love and give love. Well, Beth's love language is gift giving. She's amazing. I mean, I really honor, and I'm so impressed at how every gift she gets for someone, she thinks about that person, who they are, what they need, and she plans it. She gets so excited about it. And like for Christmas, it'll be the beginning of October. And she's already thinking about all the Christmas gifts and all the people she wants to care for.
I mean, there are a lot of people we have to buy for. So, yeah.
So it's a lot of love that she puts into those gifts. Unfortunately, my wife has married someone who has gift giving at the bottom of his love language.
When we were dating, I think maybe we were engaged or something. He was over with his family and I was with my family. And he was describing to me like, December 24th, I'm gonna go Christmas shopping now. And I'm like, wait, what? What? You haven't done that yet? It's Christmas Eve. You're going now? And he said, yeah, I got this whole system. It's great. I just go to the mall and I just get everyone's gifts at the last minute because then I don't have to spend as much time on it. And he's like, look at me, I'm Mr. Efficient. And I was horrified. But you go to it's all picked over, there's nothing left, you're just gonna be buying what other people don't want to give, and there's no personalization, you're just checking off.
I made a list. I would write their names, and I had an idea of what I wanted. I just wanted to get it done as fast as possible.
Right. Yeah, you're just checking off the
So
list.
picture what my poor wife has had to suffer these 23 years. So the first decade of our marriage, I just am not getting gifts right. I mean, I didn't wait till December 24th, but I still just didn't.
December 23rd.
I was clueless on what to get. I would get a vacuum cleaner one year. After a while, she says, could you stop giving me kitchen appliances? I would try clothes, but I didn't know sizes or anything. I mean, I was just so clueless. It's not that I don't love Beth. I really love her. It's just gift giving is not my love language. I'm just not good at it. When people give me gifts, I appreciate it, but I don't get all excited. So it's not a part of me as much. But one year, finally, I realized I got to get better at this. So I'm going to try to notice things that she loves and is interested in, and what would be helpful. And then one year, I got it. One year, I had noticed. We do a big family brunch on Sundays, and we ate pancakes and eggs and potatoes and sausage and bacon, all this stuff. And then I noticed that we would have the brunch, and then Beth would bring out this Aunt Jemima syrup or whatever, whatever generic Kroger brand syrup, something would come out. But then she would go to this cabinet high up in the kitchen and grab this little high-end specialty syrup and put it by her plate that she used for herself. And the kids and the rest of the family got the generic brand, but she had her nice specialty syrup, and I noticed. I'm going to be a great husband this year. This is amazing. And then her birthday's in the fall, and I happened to be in Vermont the weekend right before her birthday. And her birthday was on a Sunday. So I came home on Saturday, and we're going to celebrate her birthday with a brunch on Sunday. And I was in Vermont, and I thought, I got it. Vermont is famous for maple syrup. And so I'm going to get Beth some high-end specialty Vermont maple syrup. And so that next morning, we're having our brunch, and the kids are bringing her presents, and I'm kind of pretending like, nonchalant, maybe I forgot, but I've got my really awesome present that she's going to love so much. I'm so excited. And finally, after the kids give her all the presents, she's looking at me, did you forget? I'm like, oh no, honey, I got something for you. And I come out, and I bring her this bag, and I hand it to her, and I was shocked at her response.
I pulled it out, and it's not only maple syrup, but it's clearly from the airport gift shop. And I'm like, did you forget? Did you realize, my wife's birthday is tomorrow. I need to get something
I've been planning it for weeks. For weeks I've been planning.
That was my first thought. And then I thought, this must be a gag gift. So I put it on, I keep looking, maybe there's diamond earrings or something in the bag. Like, surely this is not the gift.
I said, no, honey, I noticed, I noticed something, that you have your own little specialty maple syrup, and you really like this. So this year I noticed something, so I went and I got you maple syrup. And she says, but I'm your wife.
And I do that because maple syrup is expensive. I don't want the kids dumping it all over their pancakes, but it's a food item that you buy at the grocery store. And unknown to him, I had just purchased a whole gallon of authentic maple syrup, and it was in the freezer. So, why do I need maple syrup?
And I keep trying to explain and defend. Like, I thought for weeks about this present and everything, and she's just like, but I'm your wife, and you got me maple syrup for my birthday? And I said, I'm really sorry, honey, but there's about 6 more cans coming in the mail.
Crazy.
So, we're clueless, ladies. We don't have your feminine genius. Sometimes, in some matters, we just need you to spell it out. Later that year, we had to go to Walmart or somewhere. It was like right before, a couple weeks before Mother's Day. And we're just running to go get something really quick. And then all of a sudden, Beth stops. And she goes, hey, Ted, come here. Look, do you see that purse? That's a really nice purse. I could really use a purse like that someday.
And then I just kept walking.
and I kept walking, and then I went back. And I took a picture. And I got a great Mother's Day gift for her that year. Every once in a while, I did the Jane Austen thing. That was a good. Every once in a while, I get things right. But we're clueless. We need you to spell it out sometime. On the flip side, because women again tend to be, like JP2 explains, they have a deeper, richer emotional life, a greater ability to connect with others, understand relationships, but they also have a greater need to connect with others and for relationships in a way that we as men don't always understand. So I'm going to share with you a quote from John Paul II on this. Oh, we'll do this quick here, and then we'll make, I'm not going to show the quote, I'll just summarize it. But JP2 says that women have a special right to tenderness. And what he means by tenderness is the ability to enter into the other person's emotional sphere. So it's not just like, oh, I listen to you. It's like, I'm like connected with you. I understand what you're going through. And men need that, women need that, but women need it in a way we as men don't understand. John Paul II says men are more sensual. Women have this deeper, richer emotional life. So just as, some guys might think, oh, well, I talked to my wife. I asked her a couple questions today, and I even shared a little bit, and we just like, check, okay, I got it. Like, we don't realize how much she's longing for us to enter into her emotional sphere. Just as men may sometimes, I hear this from many men, especially after maybe, a few kids in marriage, men are more sensual, so they express and want to express love more physically and physical intimacy. And sometimes they're wondering, well, hi, how come my wife doesn't want to do this as often? She's not as excited, and she's kind of like, well, didn't we do it last week? And and sometimes that can happen in a marriage life. Women don't understand maybe how much the men want to express love this way. Learn, gentlemen, from your own experience that your wife needs you to enter into her heart in a way that you don't fully understand because you're not wired that way. And so JP2 emphasizes, especially because women go through so many changes in life. And they go from being single to being married, and then they have a child, and all of the physical and hormonal changes that come with just a baby. I remember just seeing Beth going through all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my goodness, she's tired, she's sleeping all the time, this is intense. And then the baby comes. And I saw the first labor and delivery, and I was like, oh my goodness, I could never do it. I just, this is amazing. So finally, after we bring the baby home, I'm like, okay, whew, good, we can get our lives back to normal. And then there were all these crazy things happening. I mean, it's like changing diapers and spit up and checking, is the baby breathing? And then like a couple days after the baby was born, there's this whole thing no one ever told me about called engorgement. I had no idea about this. And there's machines and all that. I was just like, what is going on? My poor wife, all that she goes through. So a woman, as she goes through all these changes, physically, emotionally, hormonally, they actually need our support more. And I remember a friend of mine who'd been married and had multiple kids. After our first baby, he said, hey, how are things going with you and your wife? I go, oh, fine. Are you getting extra time with her? What do you mean extra? I mean, I'm getting time with her. We have date night. No. She needs extra time in this first year after a baby. She needs more of your time right now than ever before. You need to get extra time with her to enter into her heart. And that's what JP2 is talking about there. So more things we could get into. I'm going to leave it there because I know Alex has a bunch of our questions that have come in, and we want to make sure we have time for that. Did you want to add anything on with the? Okay, great. We'll jump in.
Great, thanks. We have about 10 minutes for it, so I've only got 3 or 4 questions. If you know that you strongly disagree with your spouse about an issue, is it better to continue not talking about it, or should you try to discuss it?
Say the first part again.
If you know that you strongly disagree with your spouse on an issue, to talk or not to talk?
I think it depends on what it is. You know, if it's in what is surrounding it. I think if there's strong disagreement, yes, you should bring it up at some point, because whatever you're seeing, whatever you're experiencing, whatever that disagreement part that you are sensing is very valid. And there are times where, you know, my very choleric husband can be full steam ahead, and I can be like, actually, we got to make sure we talk about this, or this needs to be considered before you go 100 miles an hour here. And that brings a balance to it. So again, it just depends on the nature of the disagreement. But at some point, there's some things where you're just both going to disagree, and one person has to make the decision. And generally speaking, that's the husband. So that's what submission is when push comes to shove.
This question, I'm assuming we're not talking about theological or like big moral things,
right.
Disagreements within the marriage and family life. So, okay, go ahead. Next question.
This one's perhaps related. What if there is a tension between you two, but you can't discuss this issue right now? What do you do?
Oh, I think that's fair. Like when there's, look, sometimes people say, don't ever go to bed until you finish your argument and have peace. Like, don't let the sun go down in your anger. Well, you might just see the sun rise and never get to if those late night arguments are the worst, right? Because you're exhausted, you're tired, you're drained, you're not your best. And is it ideal to have reconciliation before you go to bed? Yes, if you can. But there's many times where we've just said, you know what? We're just not in a place. Let's talk about this tomorrow. And that's fine. There's other times, I think, when, you often will say that, like, I just need time to process this. I need time to think about it, or I might say that to you, and we don't have to like force the reconciliation right now, but I'm not just ignoring you, or not just in silent mode. I'm acknowledging, I know this is important, we need to address this, there's a tension here. We just got to get the kids to school right now, and we'll talk about this tonight. And so I'm honoring and letting you know this is important, but we can't deal with it right now.
This question is for Beth. In your childbearing years, how did you maintain a healthy habits for yourself mentally and physically?
That's a great question. I don't think I was great about it early on. I think the kids were coming and they kept coming, and you just hang on for dear life. I did get to a point where I think it was after I had my 5th child, I got really into distance running. And that became a really great outlet to just several things, to just get out in the sunshine and the fresh air, to actually move my body and get those endorphins going. And then also I would run with friends. And so it would be a great talk time where nobody could interrupt us. And it just helped me to have a goal to shoot for. And I felt like I'd come home from these long runs or the short runs, and I would feel ready to serve my family. I would feel refreshed, my cup is filled, and now I'm ready to go. I felt like I really was a better mom when I was taking care of myself in that way. I think also just friends. Being a mom, especially if you're a mom of young children, especially if you're staying at home with them or homeschooling them even, we're naturally isolated from others and insulated by all the children around us. And so it can be really hard to connect with others and to connect with other moms. But we need other women. We have so many things stirring in our hearts. I think sometimes it's unfair to expect our husband to be our only friend and the only one that we can, especially for external processors, to go after things with. But I find sometimes if I'm dealing with something, if I talk to a friend first, she'll help me filter through it so I understand it better. So then when I bring it to my husband, it's less pressure on him. But also just other women to look up to. other women who are a step or two ahead of us that can help us realize it's not going to be this hard forever. There's a lot of peace, a lot of hope with that, and to know we're not alone on the journey.
Okay, another question is, when our spouse says something that hurts, how do you stay calm and not react? An easy one.
Usually I just go to confession, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll let you go.
Stay calm and not react. I mean, I'll tell you what I do and what I wish I did. Let's start there. What I normally do is just kind of go internal. You know, like the whole bottle analogy I used earlier, like that's totally me. Like if there's a hurt, I have to like take it, hold it, react to it, realize, is this really a big deal? Is it not? Do I need to bring it up? Do I need to bring it up right now? You know, is this a hurt that's piling up on others that needs to be addressed? But I'm definitely an internal person, and then I'll tend to shut down and withdraw just in a natural way. And I know now that's because of a lot of things I went through in my childhood where my parents weren't very attuned to me. They weren't very responsive to me, and understandably, because they were both trying to rebuild their own lives after they divorced. So it's just one of those coping mechanisms. What I wish I did in those moments was when there's a hurt, just like our kids, when they're playing, especially young kids, they fall and they skin their knee, or another friend of theirs bumps into them and then they bonk their head on the counter or something. They say, ouch, that hurt me, right? They skin their knee, they come to mom for a kiss and a Band-Aid. I wish that I were better at saying ouch in the moment and just letting that be like a signal that there's a flag on the play there. You know, sometimes there's a look and he knows. Sometimes,
I know the look.
Sometimes things are going in a direction and there's tension with us, but there's tension with the kids, and I'll see his like smoke start to come out of his ears, and I'll just do one of these, like bring it down, you know, and oftentimes he can react well to that.
Yeah, and mine, I could be a very internal processor, but on these matters, I tend to be more external. I tend to be really quick, like, and this is like a flaw in when I'm parenting or even in our relationship, is that I'll just call it out right away. And I actually need to do the opposite, I think, of more having the habitual disposition, the habit, the virtue of being able to just, okay, let me process this first before I respond. What's the best way to respond? I'm good at this in the office. Like in the office, something goes wrong, someone does something they're not supposed to do, they drop a ball, turn in something late. I know not to go in with a reaction. I know to go, hey, I just want to get a report on what's happening with the progress. I haven't seen the report yet. Can you give me an update? You know, I call the issue, but I do it in a very calm way. But at home, I'm less virtuous at home, and that's usually
You're
what
more
happens.
relaxed.
It brings out your deeper weaknesses, and so whether it's with a child or when I feel hurt by Beth or something, I can react, and I wish I was better at just processing more and then thinking through what's the best way to address it.
Okay, 90 seconds left. Final question for you, Dr. Sri. Any final thoughts about how to enter into the healing journey of your spouse?
How to enter
into the healing
journey
journey of your spouse.
The healing journey.
The healing journey
Of your spouse.
Yeah.
Okay, that question is explaining what some of you were telling me, that there's an echo and it's hard to hear sometimes. I couldn't get the last part of it. For me to enter into it, yeah, as I said, it was hard, and I didn't know how. Like I would just, if you have a spouse that's going through a hard time like that, and you're not sure what to do, talk to God about it. I prayed a lot about it, and again, I'm so grateful, because I would ask Beth often, what can I do? And she would just say, I don't know. But she was the one that had the idea, why don't you come to the counselor? So like that's one, I mean, for me, that was the breakthrough, was getting to go with her. And I'm just hearing Beth, and I'm understanding so much better what was really going on, so that I can be the husband I want to be for her in that time. So yeah, was I praying for her? Yes. Did I offer sacrifices for her? Yes, of course, those are good spiritual things. But I think the key for me was breaking through the counselor. And then as we're learning how to reprogram our relationship in light of what she's going through, it was for me being willing to change and not being defensive, or not being, well, look, for 15 years we did this, what's the big deal? You know, why do I have to do this differently now? And I'll say there were moments where I got a little defensive. Go, well, come on, but it was really seeing, no, I really need to adapt because this is what's going to be best for her, and that's what's going to be best for our children and my marriage with her. So.
Thank you so much. We'll take about 15 minutes to prepare our hearts and minds for Mass while the altar is dressed. So we'll start Mass at 2 o'clock, and that'll be our final item on our agenda.